Good morning, everybody. Today's Cinderella story is titled Cindy Ellen, and it's a wild western Cinderella, and it's written by Susan Lowell. Once there was a rancher who married for his second wife the orneriest woman west of the Mississippi. She was meaner than a rattlesnake, and she had two daughters who were the spitting image of her. The rancher also had a daughter who was just as sweet and gentle as she could be. Her name was Cindy Ellen. Cindy was a pretty good cowgirl, too. Riding her gray horse, she wrangled and roped and galloped and loped with the best buckaroos on the range. But as soon as the wedding was over, that snaky old stepmother began to pick on poor Cindy Ellen. She was so good she made her stepsisters look bad. So her stepmother made her do all the dirty work around the ranch. "Mend those fences, tend those cows," she would yell, "and shovel out that corral." The stepsisters never did a lick of work all day, but Cindy didn't dare complain to her daddy because his new wife wore the pants in the family. When her chores were done, the poor girl used to sit down and rest among the ashes and the cinders at the edge of the fireplace. So her older sister nicknamed her Cinderbottom. The younger sister called her Sanderella, and underneath her dirty old clothes, Cindy Ellen was still pretty as a peach. She is a mean-looking mama. Then one day, the biggest cattle king for miles invited all his neighbors for a 2-day celebration. First, a wild and woolly rodeo, and then a square dance, a real western fandango. Cindy's stepsisters puffed up like two turkey gobblers. Even though they couldn't ride, they decided to gussy themselves up to fit to kill and enter the rodeo. Nice, patient Cindy Ellen ironed their frilly shirts and frizzed their hair for them. "Don't you wish you could go too, Cinderbottom?" said the older sister. "Oh, you're just poking fun at me," Cindy said sadly. "You're right," laughed the younger sister. "Nobody could tell you from a cloud of dust, Cinderella." Very mean. Yes, here's Cindy. As soon as they were gone, poor Cindy Ellen broke down and cried. Then, suddenly, she heard a noise outside, almost like gunfire, but not quite. It was a bang, bang. It wasn't a bang, bang, bang. It was more like a bing, bing, bing. And there stood a little old lady with a golden pistol still smoking in her hand. "Who are you?" said Cindy Ellen. "Say hello to your fairy godmother, Sugarfoot," the old lady said. She twirled the pistol and slapped it back into his holster and took a good hard look at Cindy. "What's the matter with you, honey? You're down and dirty as a flop-eared hound dog. Stand up straight. Dust yourself off." "I want to go to the rodeo," sobbed Cindy Ellen. "Can you help?" "Maybe see, maybe no," her fairy godmother said. "Magic is plumb worthless without gumption. What you need first, gal, is some gravel in your gizzard. Grit, guts. Stop that blubbering and let's get busy. Time's a-wastin'." She reached for her golden six-gun, and Cindy yelled, "Don't shoot!" But her godmother had already fired straight up into the air. Bing, bing! Glittery sparkles floated down from the sky and sprinkled Cindy all over with fairy dust. Instantly her heart was filled with strength and happiness, and her rags turned into the finest riding clothes west of the east. A creamy white Stetson hat crowned her shining hair, and golden buckskin chaps encircled her legs, and a pretty pair of cowboy boots hugged her feet like gloves. Buckled to the heel of each boot was a spur that shot out rays of fiery light. Those spurs were set in diamonds as big as sugar lumps. "Now," said her fairy godmother briskly, "where's that horse of yours?" She fired her magic pistol into the air. Zing! Cinderella's little gray horse became a little silver horse with a soft, sparkling coat. His hoofs glittered as he pawed the ground. "Hit the trail, honey," the old lady said. "Remember, there ain't no horse that can't be rode, and there ain't no man that can't be throwed." And one more thing. Get home before midnight, gal, or you're going to be sorry. She looks mighty fancy. When Cindy Ellen pulled up at the rodeo, everybody turned and stared at the dazzling stranger on the silver horse. The rich rancher's son, a rodeo champion by the name of Joe Prince, came forward wearing the biggest belt buckle you ever saw and swept his hat off his head. "Pleased to meet you, ma'am," he said. "Likewise," said Cinderella. Cindy. Oops. I changed her name. And there's Joe Prince. And there's Cindy. Just then, Cindy's older stepsister rode a bucking bronco into the arena, and before she could say oopsie daisy, that caused a wrinkle in his spine, boiled over, and set her chasing clouds way up in the sky, and then she bit the dust. Next came the second stepsister, but she couldn't ride a fence rail in a stiff breeze, and pretty soon she was eating gravel just like her sister. Cindy Ellen helped her stepsisters up. She brushed them off, but they never even recognized her. Then she remembered her fairy godmother's gift of gumption and gave Joe Prince a big daredevil grin. "My turn," said Cindy Ellen. Eating some gravel. Cindy Ellen climbed aboard a salty bronco with a belly full of bed springs, a real rip snorter. She touched him with her diamond spurs. First he tried to crow hop, and then he cat-backed, then he sunfished, then he windmilled, and he jackknifed, but Cindy stuck to the saddle like a postage stamp. "Ride 'em, cowgirl!" cried the crowd, and Cindy Ellen was the winner, still with every curl in her hair in place. Next, a figure eight, a butterfly, a wedding ring. She won the trick roping event. And then she and her little horse really burned the breeze. They kicked the jackrabbits right off the trail. They left their shadows 20 miles behind them. And, of course, they won the horse race. They even beat Joe Prince. But Joe didn't care. He rode herd on Cindy Ellen right up to 11:45 that night. But she recalled suddenly the godmother's warning and went galloping home. By the time she got there, her fine duds had shriveled into sorry rags again, but she still had plenty of gumption. After a while, her stepsisters hobbled in and stove up from the rodeo. "Ha ha, you missed the champion cowgirl," they said. "Nobody knows her name or where she disappeared to. And that old Joe Prince is eating his heart out," said the younger one. "I bet she comes to the square dance tomorrow night," said Cindy, with her new daredevil grin. The next evening, her stepsisters got all dressed up like a sore thumb and strutted away to the dance, leaving Cindy Ellen alone, but not for long. Here's her grin. She knows. "What's that?" she said, peeking out the window. It looked like a cross between a comet and a dust storm. It sounded like silver bells mixed with dynamite. "Let's get crackin', sweet pea," shouted her fairy godmother. "You're late. Rustle me up the biggest, dustiest, lumpiest squash you can find." And zingo, the squash became a stagecoach. "Next, let's check the trap line," said her godmother. Quick as a wink, she turned 2 mice into 6 dappled horses, a fat pack rat into a stagecoach driver, and a rough, tough horned toad into the stagecoach guard, riding shotgun beside the driver. Riding shotgun means he sat next to him. "But what about my ugly old clothes?" asked Cindy. The old lady answered with a blast of fairy dust that melted into a dress that shone like the sun, the moon, and the stars all put together. The skirt floated over petticoats as soft and puffy as summer clouds. A rainbow of jewels glowed around Cindy's neck, and the little diamond spurs sparkled once more upon her boot heels. "Thank you, ma'am," she cried. The fairy godmother blew smoke from her pistol, holstered it, and dusted off her hands. "Remember, Miss Cindy, pretty is as pretty does. Magic can backfire. Be home by midnight or bust." Cindy promised, and the stagecoach rumbled away. She looks beautiful. When Cindy Ellen arrived at the Cattle King Square Dance, the fiddlers were tuning up for a toe-tapping jamboree. Joe Prince reached for Cindy's hand the instant he laid eyes on her. "Buckle your partners, folks," he called, "and tell 'em to hang on. Let's shake our hoofs like lightning until early dawn." And Cindy answered, "Hurry up, cowboy, don't be slow. Alaman left and do-si-do." Hand over hand, heel over heel, Joe and Cindy danced the daisy chain, the whirl-away, the curly-cue, and the grand sachet. They made their feet go wickety-whack. "Swing 'em, boys," cried Cindy, "and do it right." And Joe called back, "Swing those girls till the middle of the night." Twirling, swirling, Cindy Ellen lost track time again, until all at once she heard the clock begin to strike 12. She hightailed it out of there, lickety-split. "Whoa!" called Joe, hot on her heels, but he couldn't catch her. One of her diamond spurs fell off the boot as she ran, and Joe picked it up carefully out of the dust. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, not a particle remained of Cindy's gorgeous outfit, except for the diamond spur. She tucked it away in her hip pocket. Pretty soon word got out that the champion cowgirl was a wanted woman. She had left Joe Prince so lovelorn that he was tracking her throughout the territory, and he promised to marry the horsewoman whose boot fit the little diamond spur. He tried on many a foot, but not one could wear it. Yeah, all the ladies. At last he came riding up to Cindy's father's place. "Go shovel out the stable," said the stepmother, and Cindy reluctantly obeyed. First Joe tried the diamond spur on the youngest stepsister, but no matter how he stretched the straps, her hoof was too big. The older sister had crushed her feet into tiny bitty boots. Just for an instant, the spur almost fit. But then her boots split open and her toes popped out like puppies from a basket, and Joe Prince muttered, "Sorry," and headed for the door. There goes her boot. Popped right open. "My turn," a voice that stopped him in his tracks. It was Cindy Ellen, and although her mean stepsisters almost died laughing, Joe let Cindy have her chance fair and square, and when he put the diamond spur around her dainty little boot, it fit perfectly. Then she pulled out the second diamond spur and buckled it onto her other boot, and from that very moment, Cindy's little horse gave a and everyone heard a noise like, yay. "Wingo, wango, kazing!" "Let her rip," shouted Cindy Ellen's fairy godmother, brandishing her golden pistol. "Hold your fire," yelled Joe Prince, but glistening sparks of fairy dust had already sprinkling down everywhere. They turned Cindy's clothes from cotton to satin, and they put quite a twinkle in Joe's eyes, and Cindy's horse began to sparkle once again. "Yee-haw!" yelled the fairy godmother. So Cindy Ellen and Joe Prince got hitched and lived happily ever after in a ranch house full of love and rodeo trophies. Cindy's family moved to town where both stepsisters married city slickers, and Cindy's little horse kept his sparkling coat and his glittering hoofs until the very end of his days. Here's her family. And there they go, off into the sunset. It says, "Just hitched." Hitched means married. I hope you enjoyed our story. Let's take a look at our chart. What was her name? Cindy Ellen. Was there a fairy godmother in this story? There was a pistol-packing fairy godmother who shot glitter. Did she have a stepmother and stepsisters? She did. And did she have a beautiful dress that she wore to the rodeo? And boots with diamond spurs? She did. The fairy godmother asked her to get a lumpy, bumpy squash. And when she did, she changed it into a stagecoach. Did she lose her slipper? She did not. She lost her diamond spurs on her boots. Was there a prince? There was a cowboy, right? Joe Prince. And did they live happily ever after? After they got hitched. They did. I hope you enjoyed our Cinderella story from the Wild West. I'll see you tomorrow with another Cinderella story.